Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Men and Sex. I'm your host, Mr. Wood. This podcast is all about normalizing conversations about sexuality,
Oh,
about pleasure,
wow,
about power, purpose.
wow.
Today's episode is going to blow your hair back. We're bringing together two of the most taboo subjects, two of the least talked about subjects: sexuality and money, baby.
Oh, shit.
I've got one of my good friends, mega successful man in the house, Taylor Conroy. Welcome to the show, brother.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Ian. I love that your last name is Wood, and this is the podcast that you're doing. Makes sense. So tell us, Ian, what's the last time? And by the way, this is getting streamed live to TikTok and Instagram. So there are some words that would get us regulated on those platforms. Maybe we just,
Be
keep it
mindful.
PG-19.
Yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, can you just give us a little bit of bragging?
Uh-huh.
Can you brag a little bit about
Sure.
success, about like what your life's
Oh
been
yeah,
with finances, with
big
business?
bragger.
Brag it, baby.
Big bragger. Well, I think I'd say it's intensity. I really love intensity. I love intensity. I love like full sending whatever it is that I happen to be working on. Like, and that could be from not just working on, but life. It's like it could be from fatherhood. I like full sending fatherhood, being crazy, crazy, crazy present with my son who's 3, right? And present with him when he's bawling his face off or he's euphoric, he's whatever. And like this morning, waking up, we both woke up at like 6:30 and we're just like immediately building forts and playing hide and go seek and just like full sending the morning, right? Or also, full extreme intensity when I was 35 and I was bankrupt and eating rice and beans. Literally, the people always like they think I'm exaggerating. No, no, dude. I'm talking rice and beans, mung beans to be specific, because they have a lot of protein and fats and all the things, right? There's a dish called kitchery, and kitchery has everything you need. It's like a full, it's all you need to eat. And that's because that's all I was eating back then, rice and beans, and trying to staying at my buddy Mark's place. He let me stay there for free for a couple months. I was supposed to stay there for 2 weeks, and I just like stopped. I just didn't ask him if he wanted me to leave, and I got stayed for a couple months. So 35, being bankrupt, and actually another like couple hundred grand in debt that wasn't wiped out with bankruptcy, and figuring that shit out. And then all the way to now, which is a very different situation. It's definitely zero debt, and call it 8 figures in net worth. And that comes from being super, super intense. Super intense. So as a firefighter, as youngest firefighter in North America, then super, super intense into real estate. I was making about 500 grand a year by the time I was 24. I was a millionaire by 26 and got into like bodybuilding, just intense. I like to be intense in everything. And to do with your podcast, we'll call it sexuality so that we get banned
Yeah.
on these platforms. Super intense in that too. I don't like light interactions. I like to think about it like an axis, right? Like you've got this axis, like the X axis, Y axis.
Yeah.
You totally leave it up to a Capricorn to put their segs life on an X and Y axis. I'd say I can't remember which ones. I think the X is the top one. The X axis for me is spiritual at the top, right? So like out of the body, universal fifth dimension. Bottom would be the third dimension, raw, human, animalistic, primal.
Primal.
Okay. And so my sexuality, or in intimate moments, I want to be her and I be out of our bodies in the fourth dimension, fifth dimension, all that kind of stuff. And I want to be, and then the next second I want to be like primal, crazy, nothing, just body, sweaty, and just like carnal, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the y-axis I look at as like soft and hard, right? Like soft, call it like loving, close, gentle. These like almost like you can feel each hair with the fingertips, if that makes sense. Just like super,
Totally.
super soft. And then the other side, fully dominant, fully, you know what I mean, in control and power and all this kind of stuff. So the my experience, I like intensity in every area of life. and I want the full intensity in the intimate experiences. I want the full intensity in monetary experiences. I want the full experience in every area. I want to die and just be like, cool, wow, like that was a trip.
That was a good ride.
Yeah. Is that what you meant? That's what kind of what you were getting at.
Yeah. So today, for the listeners, we're diving into a particular teaching that really threads these two together, this sexuality, money, creation. And Taylor, I know you're a man of books. Today, we're talking about a particular chapter in Think and Grow Rich. When did you read this book? How has this book impacted your life?
Um, it was probably the most life-changing book I've ever read. I think I
Wow.
think because like, in that book, it outlines the exact step-by-step process to getting anything you want, right? So if I make this like Think and Grow Rich completely changed my life when I was 23. I read it for the first time and I did everything that it said.
Wow.
I did everything. Like most people read it as it's like entertainment for some reason. I always ask people after they read it, I said, well, did you make the vision statement and like repeat the vision statement out loud? Every morning and every night? Oh yeah, exactly. You got yours there. And they go, oh yeah, I've read that. They go, oh yeah, I've read that book. And even the way they say, oh yeah, I've read that book, I'm like, you haven't read it. You haven't actually, you got entertained and you got some dopamine hits from that book. Reading that book means understanding the profundity of that book. This guy interviewed 500 of the wealthiest people on the planet at the time. That his job was to come up with a science of being rich, of getting wealthy, right? He laid out a step-by-step process. I was like, why would I do anything anyone else says? This guy has put in the most work to get people to where I want to go. So I'm gonna do everything that he says to do. So I wrote down this vision statement. The vision statement has 5 parts: how much you want to make, when you want to make it by, what you're going to do to make it, how much you give in return for it, like to charity, and then how you're going to feel once you've made it. I wrote this thing down. This is back in 2004, 2005. And I wanted to make 500 grand. Most I ever made in a year was like 50 grand, maybe 48,000 or something like that as a firefighter. And I read this vision statement out loud every morning, every night, completely overwhelmed my subconscious with this vision statement, with this thing, like crazy, just like programmed it. So we're talking 730 times in a year, right? 365 days, twice a day.
Wow.
I was also reading it throughout the day. Anytime my vibe would go down, anytime I was like worried or fear or something like that, I was like, oh, worried and fear, this is what most people think. And then they think that it's
Ooh.
real, and therefore they stay in it, and therefore they keep creating circumstances that perpetuate the worry and fear. What
Yeah.
I'm going to do is keep in this vibration of being aligned with where I want to go, which was making 500 grand a year, and would read it throughout the day. And then it was December 29th was the last Friday, the last weekday of the year, that year, whatever it was, 2005, 2004, something like that. And December 29th, then I went into the real estate office that I was working at. I picked up some real estate on the side of being a firefighter. And I said, did I make it? Did I make it? And she goes, your commissions this year are $500,648. I was like, oh, geez. Like, I did it. Like,
Whoa.
I was like, this stuff works. So the biggest gift, or two gifts that I got from that was one was realizing that anything is possible. Going from 50 grand a year to $500,000 a year in 1 year, dude, that's
Insane.
not because of the market or
Yeah.
the industry. It's twice as much as anyone my age had ever.
You didn't learn something. You didn't like, do
No,
the education mind analytical thing. There's just
no,
like something there.
no. It's just complete magic, basically. Because everyone else my age that was starting at my time, they might have done 100 grand that year, maybe if they crushed it. I did 500. I did the top, like more than 99% of the people in my company Remax continent wide,
Wow.
right? For North America. So like we're talking about a 24-year-old kid who did not know anyone in town, had no previous experience, barely graduated high school, um, making the same amount as the top 1% of people that have been, and these guys have been in the business for 20, 25 years, and I'm making the same amount as them. It's the equivalent now of making $1 million a year, right? Because this is 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And that book is 100% the cause of it.
So for the listeners, this book has also sold 100 million copies,
Dude, what?
and so many teachers are teaching this same thing of how you work with your subconscious mind. So this is it's not just a little thing, it's a huge thing outside of just our experience.
Yeah.
And what we're going to dive into today is the chapter that piqued my attention the first time I read it. I was just like, wait a second, how is this not being talked about? It was like all the book was talked about, but this chapter, which is chapter 11,
Yeah.
The Mystery of Sex Transmutation.
Yo.
Like, what? A money
Yeah.
book with the
Yeah.
mystery of sex transmutation?
Yeah.
Now, do you remember when you read it that caught your attention at all,
Oh
or
yeah.
what's been your experience with the chapter?
I'd say that I'd say there's this ancient Taoist practice of cultivating that male intimate energy that you know about. That means, Montauk Chia writes about it in his book, Cultivation of Male Sexual Energy, or something like that, I think it's called. Anyways, I read that book the first time 12 years ago. I was in Costa Rica. My yoga teacher at the time, she's like, you got to read this book. It's going to change your life. And this is a woman who like drinks her own pee in the morning, right? So I was like, okay, this woman's kind of out there, but she seems very healthy and glowing for her age, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I read this book and it blew my mind because I was like, I knew I had a lot of energy, right? I knew I had a lot of energy from when I was in real estate. I was just like unstoppable. I was like working all the time, and I knew if it was channeled toward the right thing, it'd be really amazing. And what I think a lot of us men tend to do is this energy gets what would be the word, like
Leaked.
leaked in all these different directions. And a lot of times when I'm coaching men, they're trying to have a really decent relationship, and they're trying to do this with their family, and they're trying to do this with their business. They believe in this whole like farce of work-life balance. It doesn't exist, right? For someone that wants to do something really meaningful or out of the ordinary, it doesn't exist.
Mm.
And therefore the energy is going in all these different directions. But what if your energy was completely channeled toward one aim?
Mm.
Everything in life was toward that one aim. The thing that's mind-blowing about it is that that is contagious. As a man, when you know exactly what you want, and every day you're getting up and working toward that thing, people want to be a part of it. You're on a mission. It's the hero's journey. People love to support someone who's in complete focus and devotion toward one aim, right? And everything complements it. It's like, what does David Data talks about in The Way of Superior Man? He said a man should choose his woman based on her being in alignment with his,
Right. Right. Right.
right? Because otherwise they're going to be at odds, and there's going to be resentment built. She's going to resent the mission, or he's going to resent her for taking him away from his mission, or allowing her to take away from his mission, or they're going to both resent the mission for taking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas if everything's in alignment, it feels incredible. I feel like that chapter is about alignment to me. It's about taking this thing that we think is separate from our mission. We think maybe our sexuality or our our intimate life or whatever is separate from our mission. Are you joking, dude? It fuels it. There's nothing else there. I mean, you know what it's like. You wake up after a wonderful night with a fantastic, lover or whatnot. You
Oh
work
man.
that day. You're just like, boom, no, I've already won, you know? So
Game over.
cultivating that and not dispersing it and letting it seep is so insanely powerful, because you're now taking the most powerful energy in your body, the most powerful bodily energy, right? And you're channeling it toward bringing into your life the things that are unmanifest.
Yeah, the thing that really stuck out for me and what you're speaking to here is how he called it the fuel for success.
Mm.
And this, like you said, we're either channeling it with awareness, we're either choosing where we're directing it, or what's happening, I think, for so many men. I think the majority, it's leaking, it's causing distractions or problems, it's actually taking away from their mission or even the discovery of their mission or purpose. And one of the things that really blew me away was how he had the list of the 10 mind stimuli, is what he called it. The 10 mind stimuli. Number one, Desire for sex expression. Number one of the mind stimuli.
Can you wait? You're saying mind stimuli is like these are the things that take the most energy from the mind?
It's like the most stimulating things for the mind. The most stimulating things for the mind. So he says the human mind responds to stimuli through which it may be keyed up to high rates of vibration, known as enthusiasm, creative imagination, intense desire, etc. The stimuli to which the mind responds most freely are number one, the desire for sex expression, two, love, three, a burning desire for fame, power, financial gain, money, for music, etc. It goes on to like 10.
Wow.
But at the top,
Wow. And then does it, I mean, I haven't read that book for ages. Does it then talk about how to bring that desire in to fuel the thing one wants to bring into the world?
yeah, he talks about it. He actually starts talking about it as the sixth sense.
Oh,
It's like he really makes that bridge into creative energy. That's so
yeah,
much about what it's about is that we feel this creative energy, we feel this desire to express in that way
yeah.
and create
Oh, yeah.
create from that place, whether it's art, whether it's business, whether, whatever our mission, whatever our purpose is, that we direct it towards that creation.
Yeah. How does he say to do it? You're rereading the chapter right now?
Well, I want him to get it right. Well, yeah, I don't remember exactly what he says to do to direct it, but I think that's something we could talk about here.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Can we talk about like the I got a little piece of paper. Where's my friggin' whiteboard, dude?
Oh man, this is the man
Where's
of
the
many
whiteboard?
whiteboards.
Oh, the whiteboard. I know the whiteboard. I just used it at a coffee meeting with my dear friend Fee. Do you know Fee?
Yeah. Yeah.
Love that guy. He just moved here.
Oh, amazing.
As the man, the legend. He's here. I'm ecstatic. Um, so let's talk about this for a second. Let's get your take on it.
And we'll describe your art stick figures to the listeners.
Oh, those stick figures are coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
All right.
okay. So this is the scale of masculine to feminine, and it's the scale of where you or I or anyone will fit and who we will have polarity with. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So a woman comes up to me the other day and she goes, "Hey, how's it going?" I was just catching up with her. And she said, I was telling her about this personal development course that I went to, 2 weeks ago, which I had an absolute blast at ISTA. You've heard of it before.
Yeah.
And and she goes, "Why did you go to it?" And I said, "Well, I've been feeling myself." I said I had been experiencing that the women that had been coming into my field or that had been, reflecting to me were very masculine. And I said, that's very atypical for me. For me, that's not normal. Something
Wow.
that's beyond, this video or beyond
Yeah. Yeah.
that I really shut down sexually. I really shut down sexually probably like 6, 8 months ago. And um and so then I started realizing I was like, wait, why are all the people in my women in my field masculine? This is odd, atypical for me, right? And and so I went to this personal development course and I got back and it had switched. I
No
was back to
way.
where I'm normally at, which is very feminine women coming into my field. That's normal. The reason that's normal is because we will attract a person that is the equal distance from the center of
Yeah.
this masculine feminine scale, equal distance from the center, but on the opposite side. So I'll give you an example. I've got a dear friend. She is, and this is not,
Yeah.
male, female exclusive. She is about right here.
Yeah.
She's on the masculine side.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you, she's probably like right here. She's hyper masculine. CEO, her company, last time I heard it was worth 150 million bucks. Like she's an absolute crusher. Okay.
Doer, thinker, analytical, go
Just like a
getter.
beast, like
Yeah.
a deeper voice as well. And just like, go, go, go. That's where she's at. She was married to a guy who was here,
Yeah.
right? Or I'd say he was kind of transitioning over here because he was on his way over to becoming more masculine. So
Yeah.
he was here. So someone who's here, whether man or woman, is going to polarity
Yep.
with someone who's there, the equal distance from the center, but on the opposite side.
Yeah.
And so their marriage started having some issues because he started getting more and more
Oh.
masculine. She stayed masculine. Eventually, he moved over here and was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to take up some more space. I'm going to be more in my
Yeah.
right. They got divorced because a couple that is both on this side is doomed. They're going to power struggle, right? They're either going to power struggle and kind of battle it out. And let's say he wins, she stays in the masculine. It's just not going to work. They're going to break up, right?
Right.
Or she wins, she stays in the masculine. Then she's not going to respect him or admire him. And she's probably going to cheat on him.
Yeah.
This is kind of how it goes. That'd be like when a woman has like the higher sex drive in the relationship and she's like pursuing and she's doing these things that are typically reserved for the masculine energy, right? Now, again, what I was saying is I was attracting women that were kind of more on the masculine side, which was very
Yeah.
atypical. If you looked at my testosterone and how I channel my energy and my focus and clarity and stuff like that, it
Yeah.
would be someone who is about here. This is where I typically, this is
Really close to
my
the, yeah,
natural energy
furthest.
is hyper masculine.
Yeah.
Therefore, the person I would naturally attract would be hyper feminine. And this
Yeah.
is, and if I look at my partners, they're all like my long-term partners, they're all way over here. Right. It doesn't work for me to be with someone over here. Definitely not even close over here. There's no polarity.
Which
Right.
they, yeah. Yeah. And like let's speak a little bit to that, which would like, what would be some qualities that you were used to, which would maybe they didn't care about making all the decisions. They wanted to be at home and free to create and soft and supportive of your mission, not trying to get you to do some of their creation or something.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, all the the whole 50-50 conversation, people like, oh, it should be 50-50. Men should, but like, dude, we guys over here, we think that's all horseshit. Guys over here, we want to provide. So this is an absolutely beautiful thing because over here, these guys, we really want to provide. We get meaning from providing. We get so much absolute pleasure from providing. People over here, women over here, they want to feel provided for. They want to feel safe,
So I got
right?
to piggyback your story here because I'm just coming out of my own story with a little different elements.
Okay.
Because I was that relationship you talked about with your friend, where
Okay.
I attracted a very hyper masculine partner, business, go getter. I'm going to be the next Joe Dispenza, mission,
Yeah.
purpose,
Right.
working like 14
You
hours
get
a
it. Go,
day,
go,
like
girl.
go, go.
Go.
And I met her and I was very much on the feminine side, which was just like, I'm going with the flow. I
Yeah.
moved to where she lived. Like my
Yeah.
work, I can be anywhere. I got no rigid schedule. Like I'm just going with the flow. And I totally started moving more on the masculine side. And that is the relationship ended up moving the more that I went that way. It was like
That's the
to,
word.
there wasn't space for,
That's the word. Dude, that is it in a word. That is it. There's space. I tell you, when I'm sitting here and I meet a woman who's over here, and a lot of women here, they want a guy who's here because they want that guy to push them into the feminine.
totally,
That's
totally,
not how it works.
totally,
We're not going to mess. We're not going to spend our time pushing someone into their feminine, right?
totally.
Because here, there's no space for us. Here, there's plenty of space for us. Here, this is soft, receptive, nurturing. This is a woman who wants a man to step in, or a feminine energy that wants a masculine energy to step in. There's space.
Yeah.
So the people that I've been in long-term relationships with, there's space. I
They're
feel
receptive to direction and leadership.
yeah, and leadership, and in no way does that mean that the man is superior in the relationship. Not
Right.
at all.
Right.
It just means that the masculine energy is doing what it's supposed to do, which is being direct and concise and leading and moving forward. And the feminine is doing what it's supposed to do, which is when that's safe and feeling great and feeling connected and intuitive. She's getting the downloads.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? What if she felt totally safe in her body, connected at every part of her cycle, and she could actually get the downloads that she's meant to get, and then she brings them to this guy. He's like, "Yo, I have an idea for, a vision of where we could go," and he's like, "Hell yeah, let's execute."
Which I personally saw that in your relationship when you left Mexico. That was kind of that
Yeah.
feminine, like, hey, I'm
Oh
seeing
yeah.
something. delivering that to you and you going, yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. Let's redirect.
Exactly. Exactly. So in a word, I love that you use that word. It's space. This guy will not be with someone on this side of the spectrum. He's not going to push someone over there because there's no space for him here. The further a woman is over here into her feminine, the more space there is for him to step in and fill that space, obviously, right? Even like metaphorically and physically. And that for me, that's where the magic is. And if someone's right here and their partner's right here, fantastic. They have polarity. That's amazing. I'm not saying everyone needs to go to these
Yeah,
these
yeah,
these
yeah, yeah,
extremes.
yeah.
But
I
with
love
that,
that. I
yeah,
love that you brought this up because I think it's a perfect thread for this conversation. And I think on my own path, my relationship with sexuality has been a perfect place to practice those areas in where I wasn't direct, I wasn't penetrative, I wasn't in my leadership. I was more like, oh, what would you like? How would you feel about
yeah,
this? What do you enjoy? And that like softness. And once again, there's nothing wrong with it, but I had the opportunity to develop more of those masculine traits, and I still am. I'm still in that process of like, how can I, be more in my masculine? How can I be more present here? And he even has a beautiful list of it in here in this chapter, which is I got to read this real quick. It's so good. The handshake is number one. The
oh,
tone of
to
voice.
express masculinity, you mean?
Yeah, the tone of voice, posture and carriage of the body, the vibrations of thought and body adornment. But it's just like, practicing the ways that we carry ourselves. I think in the bedroom and our relationship to sexuality is a great place to do that, especially for men that see themselves more on the feminine side, more on the soft side. I think we're in a period of time where there's an incredibly a large amount of men more on the feminine side.
I think you're a billion percent right. And in no way, in no way do I think that a man who's over here on the feminine side is wrong or bad. That's fantastic. And if this is where he is, just kind of like it's kind of an oxymoronic, but man up and say, this is where you are, this is where your woman is, right? I know a bunch of friends of mine are in couples where he's here, she's here. And this is where I think the friction comes for women these days is that they're over here because they feel like they need to do everything, right? And they're right. They grew up in a place in a house or an environment where they had to get shit together and they had to do stuff, right? And so they're doing everything. And then they get together with a guy who is over in the feminine because that's who they have polarity with. That's who's attracted to them, right? I'm not going to go into like, the childhood traumas of him wanting to get mothered and
Right, right,
her
right.
being in like a mother, whatever, which is obviously not attractive for her. But if a woman's here and she brings in a guy here, this is what I think most women are complaining about is they're there and then they got to take care of another. Now they got to take care of a guy as well, where
Yeah,
they do genuinely want to be at least equal or be taken care of,
yeah.
right? The feminine typically wants to be protected and have structure around. Yet a lot of women are right here. And if they're there and the guy's there, great. Both can honor that.
Yeah. And for the listeners, he's pointing, we're talking a lot about women being more on the masculine side of the spectrum, males, men being a more on the feminine side, and the kind of the friction that
Yeah.
comes from that.
And if this is the case, fantastic. Ideally, both partners can have awareness over it. I've got a bunch of friends that in couples that are in this dynamic. She's here, he's over here on the feminine side, she's here on the masculine side. Then own that and own those roles. Dude, you should be cooking dinners. You should be rubbing her feet when she comes home. You should be, if she's working a couple jobs and you're farting around and if she's bringing in the money and you're surfing all day, have dinner made for her when she gets home. Run a freaking bath. You know what I mean? Pretend the genders don't exist.
Yeah.
What energies are exist in the relationship?
Yeah.
And if the energy, whoever's out there breadwinning and all that kind of stuff, celebrate that,
Yeah.
pamper that person. That person's out there supporting both your livelihoods, right? Whereas I think where it gets to is like women are here, their guy's here, and then he's playing freaking video games, right? And he's expecting her to be in the role that his mom was in, yet his mom was in the feminine, his dad was in the masculine, but now he's in the feminine, his woman's in masculine. Now she's got to do freaking everything, right? And she's got all these expectations on it. This is why I think women are just like, no thanks.
Yeah.
I'd rather not have a relationship than have that dynamic. And I think they're 100% right.
I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to experience like an epidemic of women on that side, and they just like they can't find the man they quote unquote want, and
Yeah.
they're just like become not willing to. And I'll speak once again, because I've always experienced you as more of a yang, fiery, like I could see you very much just in that masculine role, like mission, purpose, like you're coming with me or you're not you know and for me, from my own experiences, I've been very much on that other side, and I just want to speak to it because I do think there's a lot of men that are there. It's like, man, I'm enjoying so much finding my way in the masculine direction, connecting to primal energy, building up my confidence, finding where there's insecurities and moving in that direction to lead to. I was so the 50-50 guy. I was the 50-50 guy in my last relationship. It was like splitting everything, and
Yeah.
now I'm moving into, it's like, no, you're not paying for anything. I'm driving, like all that stuff is so fun because I'm doing it from a different
I
place.
love that.
I'm doing it from a place of like, I want to be this frame for you. I want to hold you. You're the water. I'm like this water bottle, and
Yeah.
I'm just holding you. And you get to be soft and enjoy the beauty of life and create and laugh and smile and point at the mysteries and magic of life, and we share that nourishment together.
They're 100% right. And this is, I love what you're saying now. This brings up the best dynamic that I've seen, the most successful dynamic that I've seen just observing in friends' relationships is that this dynamic of a guy who's naturally hyper masculine and who's with a woman who's naturally hyper feminine, that's a very challenging dynamic. It's very challenging because this person doesn't get this person at all. This person doesn't get this person at all. So they both have
Yeah.
to be doing some crazy amounts of learning about each
Yeah.
other for it to work. Again, this is me as a single guy observing relationships. I'm not saying I'm an expert. I haven't been in one for 10 years that's crushing it. But this is, the way my mind works is like frameworks and processes and systems and stuff. It seems to be a system that would work if both people are learning about that other side because they're so foreign to them. That said, the guy that you're talking about who is naturally feminine, but he moves to the masculine side and
Mm.
she was in her masculine, she moves to the feminine side. That is a baller relationship. The guy, honestly, the person that I was talking about that, the woman was over here, or his wife was here, he moved over here, they got divorced because they're both on the masculine side. He is now fully on the masculine side. He has fully transitioned over here. He's fantastic. He's a leader. He's articulate. He's concise. He's all about completion. He's directive and he knows where he's going, etc. His new partner, his fiance, was over here, hyper driven, entrepreneur, absolute crusher of a woman. She's phenomenal. She has consciously moved over here to the feminine side. She's receptive. She follows. She's submissive, but in a beautiful way. No, I'm not talking in a weak way whatsoever.
Right.
But they have an amazing dynamic. Their communication is insane. I've never seen communication like this in a relationship, and it's because she was here, she moved over there. He was here, he moved over here. They found each other, and they're both consciously cultivating in him the masculine, in her the feminine, to keep the actual polarity that they want, and they have the benefits of already having been on the other side, right? So they notice those tendencies and they pull back into what they know works, and it looks like an absolute dream relationship.
And I mean, ultimately, what I see in men and women is women that are living hyper masculine, they're freaking burnt out, man.
Oh, they're
Like
tired.
they're
Yeah.
tired, they're not like nourished. And
Yep.
then I experience for myself in my own life and with other men, men on the more feminine side, like there's a piece that seems missing in their life, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
knowing how to be direct, knowing how to like, one of the things I see the most in myself and other men is this is what I want and this is how I want it. And that a lot of men on that more feminine side, they lack that ability. Like, this is what exactly what I want, and this is how I want it. And those two, that is a skill. It's very important to create one's
Yeah.
life. That is an ability to say clearly, this is exactly what I want, and this is what I want, how I want it, only then can I go out on that mission with
Yeah.
that purpose to create that thing.
No, you're so right. I'm just picturing friends of mine that are in that flowy phase. They're like, I'm flowing, I'm kind of going with the wind, and I'm traveling, and I'm, doing all these things. And I have a friend that you're not the one that comes to mind, but I know you've been doing that too. You've been
Yeah.
doing the surrender, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing is, it's also not. There's also an extreme. There can be the rigid masculine, which I mess with. Unfortunately, at times, it's like the shadow side of this is of like
Totally.
hyper rigidity,
Totally.
very angry, very frustrated, very impatient.
Totally.
Those are the side effects of sometimes being too in the masculine. That's been my experience of it. Get
Totally.
lashing out at people and just torching them,
Totally.
which I can be very prone to if I'm that far in the masculine. And even someone who's hyper masculine doesn't mean that that person can't listen and be like, I think the act of choosing where one wants to go and how one wants to get there is, yes, amazing and beautiful. And what makes, I think, the more integrated masculine is where that thing that they want comes from. So what I mean is, like, for a lot of guys that I'm asking, like, I want to accomplish, making $1 million a year or 1 million a month or whatever, so that I'm good enough, right?
Totally.
Whereas personally, in my experience, where I like to come from is I like to surrender to what God wants of me, to surrender what to the universe is reflecting in my natural experience, which is what, because I was saying this because you've been on a walkabout and figuring out what you want and all that kind of stuff. I think that's a beautiful thing. And I mean, Jesus did it. I mean,
Totally.
Muhammad did it.
Totally.
Like the OGs took 40 days to figure out what's up and commune with God. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then once the thing is, that's then the change is someone in their feminine is just perpetually in search of what they should be doing. The masculine gets the message and goes, okay, and goes, me in this 3D reality, I hear that call.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it with every part of my being. And they execute. They don't stay in that floaty phase their whole life.
Well, I love that you brought up the hardships or the shadow of hyper masculine. And I think ultimately that's what we as men get to see in ourselves and encourage other men to look at is where are you? Where do you naturally reside? Are you more go with the flowy, hard to direct, hard to lead? Or are you more naturally on the like, I direct, I lead, and I have to control everything? Wherever we are, we have an opportunity to expand our potential and how we experience day to day life. And for me, man, like I said, I just see so much opportunity, enjoyment. I'm loving developing more of those masculine traits in myself because it's not coming from a place of shame. Oh, I'm terrible. I'm not good enough, whatever. It's like, no, I see the benefit of what I can create in my life as I develop more of these skills.
Yeah.
And, coming back into this idea and the chapter is like, I realized one of the most important things with my own sexuality as a man is like, I'm either putting it into that creative energy or I'm more in that consumptive energy. Like I'm either hyper consuming, and I think men that reside more on either side of the extremes, masculine or feminine, can be in the consumptive area where it's
You
like,
mean like, consuming content and stuff like
yeah,
that?
like content or even partners. It's like the
Oh,
void filling. It's the hungry
right.
ghost,
Yeah.
the
Ooh.
next woman, the next peak experience of orgasm, the next, video I'm watching, the big booty video I'm watching on Instagram. It can be either that consumptive hungry ghost, or it's like this energy that we feel and we work with, and then we have beautiful experiences, and then we're like put it towards the mission, put it towards the purpose.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the put it towards is, you're right. It's so the magic of it. And it's like if we're consuming it, in my experience, I was been really reflecting on how much I eat. Like I can just I'll just be eating all day, right? Eating all day, and like maybe it's like some chocolate or sugar or these I can't say it on the lives. It's okay. So it rhymes with Batum. Okay,
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah,
rhymes
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah,
Batum. It starts
yeah,
with a cr
yeah.
instead
Correct.
of a
Yeah,
t.
yeah.
It's apparently it's like a thing that you're not allowed to talk about on here. It's not illegal, right? It starts with a K,
Yeah.
then there's an R, then there's an A, and
Tom.
then it's Tom. They're not allowed to talk about it on live for some reason. I got last time I did a live and it was like you have been
Banned.
regulations or something like that. Um, so and I was deep in it for a year, at least a year and a half. I would have it every day. And so I really started reflecting. I was like, what are the feelings I'm trying to escape right now? Like what
Hmm.
that's what food for me anyways. It's
Yeah.
like oh, I have some food, or a workout or meditation. I was just kind of running from this inner anger, which is a shell of sadness,
Yeah.
you know, and wanting to kind of look at those things rather than just layering stuff on top is what it felt like. And that was a freaking sobering reality. Looking at that stuff and giving space to be super pissed off and cry and all that kind of stuff all at the same time.
Well,
Oof.
I mean, I really appreciate you bringing the story that you did earlier, which was you saw that you saw a pattern that was playing out in the women you were attracting, and it made you curious about what internal shifts needed to take place. And this is what I constantly want to call men towards is, hey, bring awareness to your relationship with sexuality. Look at it curiously, not in the way that it's like, yeah, it's good, it's perfect. Like, I like it exactly the way that it is. It's like, no, look at it with a curiosity of what patterns are here, what beliefs are here, what behaviors are here that aren't serving me for my mission, for my purpose, for the man that I want to be. Consciously go and look for those things to find them. That's like, that's really what shadow work is, to look for the things that we don't want to see in ourselves. And that's what you did when you went to that experience. You're like, hey, I got to see what's going on in here that's
Yeah.
keeping this pattern the way that it is. And I don't think enough men have that information to look at patterns so that they can discover what's there so they can make those shifts.
Yep. I fully 100% agree with that. And it's almost like I think it's in the Toltec teachings where they talk about the jaguar warrior and then the eagle warrior. And the jaguar warrior is this prowling and hunting of the subconscious, of those thoughts, of the things that are coming in that don't serve, right? So if you picture like a jaguar, like hunting and slow, like it's meticulous, it doesn't miss a thing, right? That's what it's all about. And it sounds like that's what you're speaking to. And something that any really, really rich person that I've met, the multimillionaires, the billionaires, something they all have in common is that they never blame their outside circumstances
Ooh.
for what's happening. And to take it a step further, like tangibly, there's they, and myself included, see all these outside circumstances as simply a reflection of what's going on inside. And there's a power that they all feel that permeates all of them, that no matter what happens outside, there is, I can change that. I can change that. I can make that shift. I can make that shift. And therefore, even though they feel lots of fear and they feel like a victim at times and whatever, there's an inner power and an inner knowing that if I shift this and if I do the right work at the right time, all of the things on the outside will change. Whereas someone who I think is more in their feminine energy, right, or someone who caves and it doesn't want to put up a fight anymore, is when those things that look like they're stacked against them, they don't think that they actually have the agency. They don't think they have the power to shift what's happening outside. And if you go like really deep, if you really want to know like what's happening in your subconscious mind, you just look at what life is reflecting to you, right? If life is some of the best advice I ever got in for my entire life was meant as advice for parenting. Someone said to me, I was trying to get Leo to sleep one day when he was like even earlier than a year old. And they said, Taylor, best advice they were telling me, the best advice they ever got was you can never expect your child to be in a state that you are not in.
Ooh.
You can never expect your child to fall asleep if you're stressed.
Mm,
You can never expect your child to fall asleep if you're anxious, right?
mm,
So it's up to me to be calm, peaceful, relaxed, so that my child, who's very attuned to my nervous system and attached to my nervous system, can be that way as well. And take it a step further, say it in any area of your life. Your business can never be in a state that you are not in. If you want your business to be successful and thriving so that you can finally rest, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
You need to be successful and thriving inside the vibration of success and thriving so that it can be reflected in your business. In a relationship is never going to thrive unless you are thriving, especially as the king, especially as
Yeah.
like the leader of this relationship. It is 100% up to us men or whoever's in the masculine energy to lead that energy, to lead that relationship to the energy that we want it to be in. And the way that we start that is not by, hey, you follow me and telling someone else to do. That's not leadership. Leadership is, I'm going to be that first. I'm going to be the stable, calm, grounded, solid, rooted, centered being. And only when I'm that will that be reflected by my partner. Will that be reflected in my relationship back to me as solid, grounded, rooted, thriving, radiant, euphoric, blissful relationship we want, which all starts inside ourselves.
Oh man, that could be a whole episode just me sharing my own personal story with that. But
Oh yeah?
when I started taking that level of responsibility and stopped, well, it was after I learned about parts work, internal family systems,
So
and I
good.
started just going inward instead of outward. My partner had this pattern that was just every month pattern, and as soon as I put the attention on myself like that, it shifted. It was
Oh,
crazy.
yeah.
Like
Do you mind sharing what the pattern was? What were they doing?
we would have we would connect deeply, like we would just get deeper and deeper entwined in love, like we're married, we're going to get married, we're going to have kids, like we would just get super have peak experiences, and then within like 24 hours she'd be like, I can't do this, this is too much, I'm going to leave, like we got to end this, it's too much. And I would freak out and be like, no, this is the best thing ever, you can't do that, da, 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 because my insides would get all stirred up. But
Yeah.
I started just letting her do it. And I would immediately go to myself and just like talk in my mind to myself and be like, we're all good. We're always going to have love. We're always going to be taken care of. Like, it's
Wow.
okay. And as soon as I stopped going to her and went to myself, it was like it changed so fast.
That's incredible.
So I'd
Yeah.
love to apply this. What's a way that a man can apply what we've talked about with sexual transmutation, with creation? I'd love for us each to throw one at the guys.
You go first.
Okay. I am going to follow this theme of responsibility and look at your relationship. If you're in a relationship, if you're not in a relationship, maybe look at your last one or the one before that. See what you're attracting. What is it that you don't like? What is it that stirs you up? And take notes. Get like real, be scientists about it. Be real curious about it. Like, I keep attracting partners like this, and then our intimacy becomes like this, and the relationships like this, and say what is going inside of myself that needs attention. What is going on inside of me that is attracting this in the people that I'm relating with in my life? And I personally believe looking at intimacy, looking at sexuality is a great place to look, to find those things, to get your clues.
I would piggyback on that and say if there's anything going on in one's life that you want to change, the last place you want to start is by going after that thing. Right? It's a total paradox. I'd say this is the biggest green flag that you're going to have a really thriving, happy, successful, rich life is you know where to go to actually change things, which is inside first. If it's something's being reflected to you in of lack, not enough, worry, stress, fear, anxiety, whatever it is, and it triggers you, it is but a reflection of something that's happening inside. And it's an invitation, a signpost, a pointer of like, oh, there's something in here to address. And the way that that can get addressed is you were talking about parts work. The way that that can get addressed is by going within and just first of all honoring the feeling that's deep there. It's like, I feel sad. I
Yeah.
feel scared. And
Mm.
then keep going deeper and deeper. I feel scared that we're not going to
Mm.
get enough sales today. And if we don't have enough sales today, then I have to go back into the head of sales position. If I have to go back into the head of sales position, I have to do things that I don't want to do, and I don't want to manage the team, and I don't want to da 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 da, and go into like what you're really scared of, which is a loss of freedom,
Mm.
right? And so therefore, if one is fearful of a loss of freedom, that indicates that one wants as much freedom as one has now or more, and you can never expect your business to be in a state that you're not in, meaning if you want your business to be in a state that provides freedom, then you need to feel free inside. And so the cultivation, the work is how do I feel more free? What are the things that I can do to free myself from caring what other people think, free myself from the burdens of whatever internally first, and then let it be reflected to yourself in your business and take massive action to do it. Of course, once you're in alignment with that feeling of freedom, rather than acting from the fear place of trying to change something externally.
Taylor, thanks so much for
Dude, that was
sharing
fun.
this time. And for the listeners, I'll put links for Taylor's stuff in the description. I highly recommend his content. He's one of my favorites when it comes to wealth and money and creation. And grateful for all the wisdom you shared with the listeners today.
Yeah, thanks for the back and forth. I really appreciate that. Your examples on the masculine and feminine spectrum and your experiences with that was fantastic. And I think for your guys watching this, it's like that spectrum is not fixed.
Right.
Spectrum is probably a symptom where you're at on that spectrum is probably a symptom or reflection of what happened in childhood. And it's simply an invitation to change it if you want to change it. Right? Step more into your masculine, step more into your feminine, connect with whatever side you feel like you need to be connected with. And I think Ian, you're just such a fantastic leader in that regard because you're so introspective and self-aware and mindful of everything that's going on in your experience. So if someone's listening to this and they want more of either of those sides, then obviously you're the guy to go to, and hopefully they get to work with you or at least listen to more of your stuff because it's going to do nothing but help them.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, dude.
Thank you everybody for listening and join us for the next one. Have a wonderful day.